With the Chosen gone, there was nothing stopping us from immediately beginning our assault on Advent's psychic relay, but it quickly became evident that we still needed to take care of a few last-minute preparations. The attack on the psychic relay was at the heart of Advent's ever-dwindling territory, so we weren't going to be able to send in a full assault team. It was a job better suited for our best-trained covert operatives, and they were currently busy with a different mission. We also needed to be sure we would be ready to breach the Advent portal immediately afterwards, but Tigan and Lily still hadn't found a way to do it. I decided to check in with them down in the Shadow Chamber, and they were both quick to pitch their latest terrible idea. Apparently, they had discovered that the portal could only be activated by living creatures with alien DNA. Their rather bold proposal was that we could use the genetic template we had recovered from the Advent Forge to essentially build a new avatar just for the purposes of opening the portal. The catch was, someone was going to need to control it. Their experiments with the sparks and the psi chambers had convinced them that they could theoretically transfer someone's brain into this new body, much in the same way that the Elders could pilot the avatars from afar. Of course, it was an untested theory with potentially catastrophic side effects, so 3 guesses on who they wanted to use as a guinea pig. I wasn't thrilled with the idea, of course, but they simply didn't have anything better. Not yet, anyway. We needed to wait a few more days for our covert ops team to get back to the Avenger, so hopefully they would come up with something better before then. In the meantime, Tigan cheerfully informed me that his lab techs had finished studying Blightwalker's weapons. I think Tigan was just trying to distract me, to keep me from obsessing over his latest crazy plan to put my brain in an alien body. But really, I welcomed the distraction. The last thing I wanted to think about was being stuck on Tigan's operating table. Much like the weapons recovered from the other Chosen, the Hunter's weapons were incredibly advanced works of art. They represented the pinnacle of magnetic weapon technology, capable of propelling projectiles at such tremendous speeds that they could penetrate almost any armor. If these new weapons were really as good as Tigan said they were, then we were going to want to take them into our final mission against the Elders. There was something poetic about using the Elders' own weapons against them. We just needed to properly field test them first, before we risked using them in a more important mission. We had received word a few days earlier about the discovery of Advent's final research facility. It seemed like a good excuse to send our men out on one more mission before we began our final assault. I quickly put together a team of some of our most brutal and efficient soldiers, with instructions to burn the place to the ground. After all, we now knew that those facilities were being used to process human remains into making more of these avatars, new bodies intended to help the Elders survive. If our goal was to eradicate the Elders once and for all, then we certainly couldn't afford to leave their backup plan intact.
We're moving to take out a high-security Advent installation operating out of this region. Intel from the Resistance suggests this facility is conducting research critical to the Avatar project. Once in position, approach the designated target and plant the X4 charges. Once they're armed, move to minimum safe distance and level that facility. Menace 1-5. Target coordinates are locked in. Move to designated position and place the X4 charges. We're operating in the shadows.
Hey, RetconRaider here, and welcome back to episode 55. I'll admit, today's a bit of a filler mission. I wanted an excuse to test out the Hunter's weapons, and this gave me a chance to send some of our more neglected operatives out on one final mission.
No need to ask twice.
Oh, and I did actually have to wait for some of our covert operatives to get back, too. Not only would it be thematically appropriate to send them on the psychic relay assault, but it will also make things slightly more challenging because those are some of our lowest level operatives. Then of course we'll be pulling out all the stops as we go into the final mission with some of the best soldiers on our roster. Of course, today's mission is probably going to be a cakewalk. We're only up against 11 enemies, and now that all the Chosen are dead, there's no chance of getting any unexpected guests.
Moving to designated position.
I suppose this might actually make a good bookend for the series. When we first started out, we struggled on some of the earlier missions, and now, despite increasing the difficulty to the maximum setting, we should be able to just breeze through them.
Moving on.
I'd like to say that's because I'm good at strategy games, but I think we all know that's not entirely true. War of the Chosen adds a lot of new content to the game, but a lot of that content, like the new equipment and the skill training centers, just ends up making the game a lot easier in the long run.
They're moving out.
Digging in.
We've got an enemy squad here.
Okay, we've got our first pod in sight, and it looks like a basic variety pack of Advent soldiers. We can also clearly hear a sectopod somewhere nearby. Oh, in fact, there it is. Okay, we've got over half the facility's guards in sight, and we could start things off now with our Shredstorm cannon. But I think we might actually be able to catch both pods with a single blaster bomb. That looks like it should work just fine.
Locked on.
Definitely not a bad start. That trimmed off a lot of health and armor, so now it should be easy to start picking people off. Let's see what our snipers can do. Actually, I think Raziel is better off sending in his blaster bomb. We've got the sectopod right behind the rest of these guys, so we might as well start trimming off its armor.
Can't hide from this one.
Okay, that activates the sectopod, and we can actually see a third pod behind them. Let's start by having Messer test out his new weapons. Not only do they do more damage than their plasma counterparts, but the Hunter's pistol ignores up to 3 points of armor, while the Hunter's rifle only takes a single action point to fire. That makes your sniper a lot more mobile. Before we have Messer take any shots, let's have Vlad clear out some more of this cover.
Homing in.
Alright, that takes out the rest of the sectopod's armor and kills the Lancer. Now let's see what Messer can do. Not bad. I think that was a combined total of 18 damage. Let's keep focusing our fire on the sectopod for the moment. That's easily the most dangerous opponent on the battlefield right now. I'd like to see if we can take it out with just one more shot, but it looks like that would require us to get a critical hit. I just want to make sure we have enough actions left to deal with the rest of these guys. No, I think we'll just take our chances with the sectopod. Well, that certainly did it. Now we can start focusing the rest of our fire on these other guys. Oh, except I guess we've already actually used most of our actions, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see what they do. It looks like the priest is locking down Rorschach. That's actually not a bad thing. He's the one who's closest to all those enemies. Alright, looks like they're just using the turn to consolidate their position. The shield bearer put up shields, so that means the first thing we need to do is take him out. Once he's gone, the rest of the shield should go with him. I can't say I'm crazy about Raziel's chances to hit, so let's see what Messer can do. Since he's carrying the hunter's gear, he can actually move and still fire his sniper rifle, so let's bring him up a little closer first.
Klingt machbar.
Still not great, but we'll go for it. Nice. Still got the job done.
Na, was sagt ihr dazu?
Now we can have Raziel pick off that priest.
X-ray neutralized.
Now we just need to pick off the rest of these guys. We have to wait for the stasis field to drop anyway.
On your order. Hostile target down.
That takes care of the trooper.
X-ray neutralized.
And that takes care of the purifier. Okay, let's bring our guys up a little closer, and then we'll end the turn by putting them on Overwatch.
Heading out. Got it covered. Covering. Get some.
Alright, Rorschach's back in it, so let's keep advancing towards our objective. We'll need to be on our guard, because we know there are at least 2 Archons in there.
On your order.
Ah, looks like we've got an Advent turret. Well, that shouldn't be a problem. Let's bring Demon up first, so we can trim off its armor.
Moving to position. It hit the plate.
Now we should be able to have just about anyone finish it off. There we go.
Hostile target down.
Now let's continue moving forward, but we'll want to be careful not to set off the Archons just yet. We'll do that once everyone's got their actions back.
Schon unterwegs. Overwatch. Overwatch. Fire fast.
Okay, we'll keep pushing towards our objective, and hopefully we can trigger that last pod.
I'm on it.
There we go. Alright, let's have Rorschach prep an evac zone, then we'll take these guys out, set the explosives, and be on our way.
Evac, now!
Let's just take a look at our options here before we decide who should take the first shot. Okay, let's bring Vlad up and he can start things off with a quick grenade.
On your order. Fire in the hole!
Well, that certainly did less damage than I hoped it would. Let's bring Demon up next, and he can use an acid grenade. Oh, scratch that. We just spotted another turret. Okay, now we need to prioritize taking down that turret instead. We can't quite reach it with a grenade, so Demon needs to trim off its armor, and then someone else is going to have to finish it off.
Armor still holding. Shot failed to connect.
Well, Raziel missed, so Messer will have to pick up the slack. First, we'll have him light one of the Archons on fire. Now we'll have him take out that turret. Nice.
Schon beeindruckt?
Now we can go back to focusing on the Archons. These guys are pretty dodgy, so I'm not sure we're going to be able to take them both down before the end of the turn.
It's still up.
Let's see if we can at least take one of them down.
Moving to position. Target eliminated.
Alright, now the other one gets a chance to attack us.
Watch the flanks.
And he did nothing. I mean, I know he only had one action, but I really thought he'd use it to attack us. Well, whatever. I think he's the last enemy on the board, so we'll tear the Archon apart and then we'll focus on getting to the objective.
Konzentriere dich.
There we go.
Hostile terminated.
Now let's have our guys regroup, and next turn we can send someone in to set up the explosives.
Already there. On the move. On the move. Moving to Overwatch.
Menace 1-5, you're near the target position.
Alright, let's send Rorschach in there. With teamwork, he can actually plant the explosives and then come back out in the same turn. Oh, right. Or he could just use run and gun.
No need to ask twice. On the move.
Once we've planted the explosives, a reinforcement pod will be triggered. We'll stick around just long enough to kill them, but we should be able to do that in a single turn.
Das kann ich machen.
Moving to position.
Menace 1-5, status confirmed. X4 charges are armed. Move to the extraction point for immediate evac.
Okay, now we just need to wait for the reinforcements to show up.
Waffe geladen. Bin dabei. Affirmative. Covering now. Roger. Holding. Looks like they called in
Menace
some
1-5,
friends.
be advised, we've picked up hostile reinforcements inbound on your position.
On the move.
Well, they are coming in at a bit of an odd angle, but that shouldn't be a problem. Let's get everyone in position.
Get it covered. Come get some. I'm on it. Come get some. Skelibate. I'm on it. Maintaining position. Got some advent here. That won't do it.
Alright, we've already taken out the officer, so... Now we'll take shots at the rest of the pod as we have our guys head back to the Sky Ranger. Let's start by getting that wall out of the way.
Grenade out! Let's go!
And now we can just start chewing them up with gunfire.
That armor's tough!
There goes the purifier.
Target eliminated. Heading home.
Now we just need to take the armor off the mech.
Just in time. Target neutralized.
There we go.
Getting out.
Alright everyone, back to the Sky Ranger. We're done here.
The right some up mouse. Ready to boogie.
Menace 1-5, status confirmed. X4 charges detonating.
Huh. Apparently we missed an entire enemy pod. That's a shame.
I would like to assure the citizens of Advent that our peacekeepers will stop at nothing to prevent further attacks by criminal elements such as the one that occurred today. The Elders have total faith in our ability to overcome any and all threats to our peace.
Glad to see our troops finding success in the field. It's good for the entire crew's morale.
Well, no level ups, but I guess it doesn't really matter at this point. Good work, everyone. With the last of the Avatar facilities destroyed, the Elders' plans were in shambles. There was always the possibility that they might be able to rebuild, given enough time, but we certainly weren't going to give them any. More importantly, Lieutenant Varnas had just returned from his latest covert op, so I ordered him to immediately report to the Shadow Ring so we could brief him on his next assignment. As a veteran of over 20 covert ops, I was hoping that he would be able to lead our team to success, especially with the assistance of the Hunter's old weaponry. This was it. There was no turning back now. It was time to begin our final push against the Advent Authority. Whether we won or lost, the war would soon be over.